The Unveiling of Secrets. Sue and I sat comfortably on the couch, the TV playing a random show that neither of us paid much attention to. After a quiet moment, Sue spoke up. "Hey Dee, do you remember Mrs. Betty Ryan from my old neighborhood?" she asked with a glint of nostalgia in her eyes. I thought for a moment. "The one with the cats?" I replied, recalling vague stories. Sue chuckled. "Yeah, but there's more to her than just cats." She leaned in closer, lowering her voice slightly. "She was my first everything." I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" Sue took a deep breath, a soft smile forming on her lips. "It was right after high school. I had this curiosity about her. She was so different, confident, outspoken, and comfortable in her own skin. One day, she sat me down and told me she was a lesbian, had a partner, and lived her life as a nudist at home. I listened intently, imagining the young Sue trying to make sense of this revelation. "And how did that go for you?" I asked, genuinely curious. At first, I didn't know what to say, but she could see I was curious. She became a mentor of sorts, teaching me to embrace who I was and not be afraid of it. Sue explained, her voice softening as she spoke about the experience that shaped her. Her eyes drifted off as she recalled more memories. "Betty had this way of making me feel seen and understood. I was always searching for something, and she gave me the tools to explore that part of myself. It wasn't just about sexuality. It was about finding confidence and comfort in being myself." I nodded, understanding how significant that experience had been for Sue. Mrs. Betty Ryan had been more than just a neighbor. She had been a guide in helping Sue discover her identity. Sue smiled warmly at me, her hand gently resting on mine. "You know, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it weren't for her." I squeezed her hand. "Thank you for sharing that with me, Sue. It sounds like she had a big impact on your life." "She did, and I'm grateful for that. She taught me the importance of self-acceptance and embracing love in all its forms." The conversation felt like a window into a part of Sue's past I hadn't fully known before, and it deepened our connection in ways I hadn't expected. Later, as we settled into the quiet of the evening, Sue mentioned something that caught me off guard. "You know, we should invite Betty over for dinner. It's been so long since I've seen her." I smiled. "I think that's a great idea." And so, plans were made for a reunion with the woman who had played such a pivotal role in Sue's journey. The days leading up to Betty's visit were filled with excitement. We prepared a beautiful dinner, and the evening arrived with a sense of anticipation. When Betty walked through the door, it was as if no time had passed. She greeted us with a warm smile, and the evening flowed with laughter and conversation. Betty shared stories of her travels, her art, and the life she had built since moving away. Her presence filled the room with wisdom and warmth. As the evening drew to a close, Sue and I exchanged a glance, both of us grateful for the chance to reconnect with someone who had been such an integral part of Sue's journey. Betty's influence had been profound, and in many ways it had shaped the life we shared together. The visit with Betty reminded us that our stories, no matter how personal, are often intertwined with those who have touched our lives. And as Sue and I reflected on the evening, we knew that our relationship, built on understanding, trust, and love, was stronger because of the experiences that had shaped us. In the end, the visit with Mrs. Betty Ryan was more than just a reunion. It was a reminder that the past can shape us, but it's the connections we nurture in the present that truly define who we are. After Betty's visit, the house felt fuller, brimming with warmth and memories. As Sue and I cleaned up after dinner, there was a comfortable silence between us. She caught my eye and smiled, a soft, knowing smile that spoke volumes. "Betty's still amazing, isn't she?" Sue mused as she wiped down the counter. "She was such a huge part of my life back then. But you know," she said, turning to me with a tender look, "you're the one who's here with me now. You're the love of my life." Hearing her words filled me with a wave of emotion. I walked over to her, wrapping my arms around her waist. "I'm so glad I get to be a part of your story, Sue." I whispered, my lips brushing her ear. Sue turned in my arms and leaned into me, our foreheads gently touching. You're more than a part of it, Dee. You're my future. The warmth of her words melted the space between us, and I kissed her softly, savoring the tenderness that flowed between us. Her hands cupped my face, her thumbs gently caressing my cheeks as our lips met again. More deeply this time, full of affection and understanding. It wasn't hurried or intense, it was simply the kind of kiss that said, I'm yours and you're mine. We stood there for a long moment, the kitchen lights dimmed around us, just holding each other close. There was a quiet simplicity to it, but it was filled with so much love. After a while, Sue took my hand and led me to the couch, where we had started our evening. We sat down, her body pressed against mine, and she rested her head on my shoulder. I gently ran my fingers through her hair, lost in the feeling of being so close to her. Betty taught me so much about myself, Sue began, her voice soft and thoughtful. But what you've shown me, Dee, is how to love fully, without fear, without holding back. I feel like I'm my truest self when I'm with you. Her words touched something deep inside me. I kissed the top of her head, my heart swelling with gratitude for the life we had built together. I feel the same way, I replied, my voice filled with sincerity. With you, it's like everything finally makes sense. We've been through so much together, and it's only made us stronger. Sue tilted her head up to look at me, her eyes shining with love. You always know how to say the right thing, she teased, her smile lighting up her face. I grinned back at her, leaning in to press a soft kiss on her lips. I mean every word. As the night grew quieter, Sue and I curled up on the couch, holding each other close. The TV was still playing in the background, but it was just white noise now. Our world was made up of the quiet touches, the gentle caresses, and the unspoken promises between us. I love you, Dee, Sue whispered against my skin, her voice laced with emotion. I love you too, Sue. Always, I whispered back, pulling her even closer. We stayed like that for a while, wrapped up in each other, content to just be in the moment. The bond we shared felt unbreakable, strengthened by the love we had for each other, and the journey we were on together. Eventually, Sue looked up at me with a playful smile. Let's make this night even more special, she said, her voice full of warmth. She stood up and reached out her hand, and I took it without hesitation. As we made our way to the bedroom, the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't about recreating the past. It was about deepening the love and connection we had now. Sue turned to me, her hands resting on my shoulders, her gaze soft but filled with desire. I want to show you just how much I love you, she whispered, her voice like a gentle breeze. We undressed slowly, savoring each moment. Every touch felt like a reaffirmation of the love we had for each other. There was no rush, just a quiet, intimate dance between us. Sue's hands glided over my skin, and I shivered under her touch, feeling the warmth of her love in every gesture. As we lay down together, our bodies entwined, I could feel the steady beat of Sue's heart against mine. Her kisses were gentle but full of passion, each one a promise of forever. I ran my fingers down her back, memorizing the way her body responded to my touch, knowing that this moment was ours alone. I love you, she murmured against my lips, her voice filled with tenderness. I love you too, I whispered back. Our eyes locked in a gaze that held the weight of our shared history and the beauty of our future. As we made love, it wasn't just physical. It was a deep, emotional connection that bound us even closer. Every kiss, every touch, every whispered word was a testament to the love we had built over time, a love that had grown stronger with each passing day. When we finally lay together in the quiet aftermath, our bodies tangled in the sheets, I felt a profound sense of peace. Sue rested her head on my chest, her breathing steady and calm, and I gently stroked her hair, feeling the softness of it between my fingers. Thank you for tonight, Sue whispered, her voice soft and content. I smiled, my heart full. No, thank you, Sue, for everything. In the stillness of the night, I knew that no matter what life brought us, our love would always carry us through. We had each other, and that was more than enough. As Sue drifted off to sleep in my arms, I closed my eyes, knowing that this was just the beginning of a lifetime of love, joy, and shared memories. And as the moonlight filtered through the window, casting a gentle glow over us, I held Sue a little tighter, grateful for the journey we were on together, one filled with love, laughter, and the promise of many more nights like this to come.